هذا وما كنا لنعتذر لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على الإمام البلدين ونبينا الحرمين وأفضل الثقلين والولد الحسن والحسين الذي سمي بالسماء أحمد وفي العربين عبد القاسم محمد والذين كتب الله عنهم الرزق وتراءهم تذكيرا أما يكون الذي كتاب الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنما المؤمنون إخوة فأصلحوا بين أخويكم واتقوا الله لعلكم ترحمون. For the Shishah of all the Ahmadiyyin, for their sake, wherever they are, Sallallahu Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. For the peace and the reappearance of the Master of time amongst the monks, Sallallahu Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Indeed, upon this night, we find that in community, we remember the Nasiba of Habib in God. That Habib in Ahmad was an individual who was drowned in the love of the He was an individual who held on to the angle of Bilal firmly. You find he was that individual, that his child, the great story is there. That the Habib, a young Habib, would pick up the sand from underneath the feet of the Bilal and place it upon his head. You find more than that, as Habib has famously been described as a friend by Ahmad Bayt. You find that in his life, Imam Hussein addresses him as what? As a Rajul Faqih, that a man of understanding, a man of knowledge, that he embodied loyalty, that he showed what it means to be there for someone in a time of need. That was the introduction, it goes to show that there are many aspects of Habib in Ramadan, that even examples of he and the ideal community member amongst the walls of Ahmad Bayt. And that's why on this night, the topic which I decided is one which fits the whole that Habib has given us, and that is examining the concept of Tawalla, which is the verb form of the word Tawalla, which is the noun, and building unity amongst our community. Because you find that this is something which is often overlooked. For Tawalla has multiple dimensions, that not only does Tawalla mean to love Allah and His Prophet and Ahlul Bayt, but who love those who love the Ahlul Bayt. And then this third dimension and fourth aspect, you find that it's often forgotten within our community. That you find that when we come forward the mosque has become a place of fighting. That when we look at our communities, people are numbers are short, their patience is low. You know, there's somebody who right about fighting and the paradox of our lives. That we have all our buildings, but we have shorter tempers. We have higher freeway, but we have narrower viewpoints. And that is the reality of the situation. That the laws of the judges in time have become a place of judgment to someone instead of salah, which is one of the same wanted. And you know what's the saddest reality of this is? The saddest reality is that unfortunately, how many times I've heard people say that I don't want to come these islands anymore because of this. That I've heard multiple people, they say that because of the judgment, because of what is going on. And then there is time and there is a need to reform this. Because not only are children and youth that when you look and when somebody asks you that you love Ali ibn Abi Talib, you don't reply by saying that I love Ali. Yes, that aspect of saying Ya Ali, your mind is there, totally wrong. That when your children are hurt, say Ya Ali. When you're picking up something that you say Ya Ali, keep saying Ya Ali, and you rewrite your destiny. For even on the gate of heaven, the name of Ali ibn Abi Talib is written on that gate. That when you look at the tradition, you find a gate of heaven that says La ilaha illallah, it says Muhammad Rasulullah, it says Ali wa Waliyullah, it says Fatima, it says Muhammad Rasulullah, it says Hassan Sayyid al-Shabab. You know, I remember one scholar would say that even if a Dushman if he came to the door of heaven, he would see upon that door the name of the Prophet is there, the name of Ali ibn Abi Talib. He would say that he turned around, that this is in heaven, this is one of those people who he stayed within this world. So you say the name of Amir al-Mu'mineen, but the best way to show that Amir al-Mu'mineen is through action, through that practical application of wilayah. Because at the end of the day, you love that which is loved by the ones whom you love. That you love that which is loved by the ones whom you love. You have another couple. That you go to your flowers. Personally, he doesn't care for his flowers, but she cares for them. And he loves her every time with her. So he gets that of that. Why? Because it is loved by the ones whom you love. Similarly, why this word, is a twofold word that then is reciprocal love. Is the lower level, that then love them, and in return they gave love as well. They love you as well. You know, when these words in the Quran, these are two-way words, they are reciprocal. For example, when there is allegiance, there is a reciprocal return. But the question comes up, what is that reciprocal return? Because if you're pledging allegiance to the Imam can't pledge allegiance to you, for you're not infallible, you're not infallible. And you find that in return, you give allegiance to them, they promise shafa'ah and intercession for you, and that is that return. So you find, if we begin to transform, and when we begin to look at things through the lens of wilayah, you will find that we transform this world. Because when we look at these majalis need to be a sort of spirituality. For the sixth Imam would say that go and wander the heavens upon this earth. They said that the sixth Imam, that the heaven exists upon this earth. The sixth Imam was saying, wherever there is a God in the name of my God, was saying, that is the heaven upon this earth. Why? Because many of the scholars have written that heaven is the name of God. Heaven is the name of understanding. And the more understanding you have, it's as if your God will be upon this earth. But wherever you go, you will be creating heaven upon this earth. And how do you do that? You do it with the practical lens of wilayah. But when we look at something like Muhammad, why do we love Muhammad? We love Muhammad because he was loved by Ali ibn Abi Talib. In the same way we love our community members because they love Ali ibn Abi Talib, and they have promised that they would return them. They would return that. But when you look at Muhammad, you find that there was a time period I want to talk about it. Within that time period I want to talk about it, his children were tutored by that even he would tutor his children. You find that the one was a tutor in the Shia. You know what the one says to him? He says, I hear one of the fathers of Ahlul. I have one question for you. Do you love my children or do you love the children of my father? You know what Bilal is saying? He says, difference between Islam and Iman. Number two, what is the concept of Allah and what is its position within Islamic thought? Number three, why did the Prophet ask in return for his risala, love for his family? And what are the dimensions of Islam? And number four, what are the three spheres can we divide humanity into? And what is the responsibility towards each of those groups in order that we can build a progressive community amongst all of our Indeed, when you examine the Quran and look at Surah Al-Hujurat, of course, the other name which has been given is Surah Al-Tawalla, that the chapter of morality. Within this chapter, number 10, the 10th verse states what? It says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. That indeed the believers are brothers, that they are brothers. And then it says what? It says, فَأَسْلِمُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. It says that solve the problem in between them, create salam in between them, and have piety and consciousness of Allah, so you can have His mercy. That when we look at this verse, the concept of brotherhood comes up. Because when we go find that brotherhood is the strongest bond. That when we look at emotion, parents and children are emotionally the strongest attachment. But there is a difference. The parents are on a higher level than the children. They're not equal. But when we have brotherhood in Islamic thought, everybody is on the same playing field. And this is why this bond is so important that when Rasulullah comes to Medina, the first thing he realizes is that if I want to spread a community that can spread Islam ideology to our world, I need to have unity at a base level. That when we want to spread the message of Imam Husaini to the rest of the world, we start by having unity amongst us all. He begins making everybody brothers, but he doesn't just do it based on moral or material reasons. He looks at the mindset of the individuals. He looks at the faith of the individuals. You find the narration mentions that he made Salman the brother of Abu Dhar. He made a certain individual brother of a certain individual, and as he already makes them all brothers. What does he see? He sees Allah is crying. He goes towards him. He says, oh, Ya Ibn Abu Talib, why are you crying? You're crying like saying, Ya Rasulullah. You made every single person the brother of somebody else, but you didn't make me the brother of anyone. Rasulullah says, oh, Ali, if there was anyone like you, I would have made them the brother. That if there was anyone like you, oh, I would have made them the brother. Then he says, Ya Ali, أنت أخي في الدنيا والآخرة. Then you are my brother in this world and the hereafter. Then you find that the basis of society is based upon this concept of brotherhood. But the question immediately comes into mind is that why does this chapter, why does this verse of the Quran say that the believers are brothers? That I say, Allah, why are you not more inclusive? Why aren't you saying that the entire humanity is brotherhood in this verse? You find the answer is what? Is that when Islam is brotherhood, it's not brotherhood based on morality. When Islam is supporting brotherhood, that brotherhood is with the purpose. It is the goal, and that goal is driving forward ethically and morally. For example, if you have a religious establishment, and within that religious establishment, not everyone would say that nobody has been given from hands like mine. When you look at that individual, by their bodies they feel 72, but in reality they were one soul. That by their body they were 72 in number, but when their minds had their age of our faith, the vision of the message was so unanimous. It was like they were moving in one direction together. And this is that reality. Because if one say it's easy to stop, but to be honest, how hard is it to stop? And that is the strength of the Lord on the way. That when we come together, that nothing stops us from making change and to create change within this world. Because by ourselves, we are one drop. But when these drops come together, they form an entire ocean. That when these drops come together, they form an entire ocean. And this is the reality. This is one of the practical manifestations of wilayah. And if I'm interested in the second question, which comes up in the mind of the being after reading this verse, is that okay, you said believers are brothers, but what is the difference between Islam and Iman? That is a legitimate question. What is the difference between Islam and Iman? And this is something we find that the ancient one appreciate what we they all discuss this. But to summarize, I'll mention three quick points about this lengthy discussion. The first which they stated is that Islam is something which is superficial. It is outward acceptance, whereas Iman is something within the heart. You know, we all know those people that always say, all we do is we make small talk about them. Hey, how's your weather? Bye. Next day is that that's very superficial. It's outward. But sometimes you meet someone. The conversation starts at outward level, but then it becomes a deeper conversation, and you guys have to recognize each other. You find it in the same example. When we say George, actually, you were allowed to marry a Muslim. When you're in a time of need, the zakah and the force they provide for you. But we find out that the reality of Islam is not remaining at that superficial level. The reality of Islam is for you to transcend into your heart. You know, Surah Al-Munafiqun was revealed for a reason. That outwardly there were individuals, that outwardly saw that Islam was spreading, and they did not stop. They said, that we would join Islam, and they actually won't have Islam within the inner world. That outwardly they may look like Muslims, but they didn't have Iman. That this is the first thing. The second thing which was given is that Islam is verbal exception. Islam is verbal, but Iman is also having action along with that verbal. That Iman is having action without that verbal. You find that it's narrated from our fifth Imam. And you know who's the narrator? Muhammad bin Muslim. Muhammad bin Muslim had 80,000 narrations of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam memorized. You know why he had them memorized? Imam as-Sadiq, salamullahi alayhi. Imam as-Sadiq, he places his hand on the heart of Muhammad bin Muslim. He says, "Oh Muhammad bin Muslim, may Allah open your heart for our knowledge." After that Muhammad bin Muslim, he has 80,000 narrations memorized. You find that what does Muhammad bin Muslim say? He says that our fifth Imam would say, that verbal exception without acceptance, without action is Islam. But when you have verbal exception and actions, that is what you call Iman, belief. That is the second level. But the third thing which the ulama have mentioned is that to transcend, to have the reality of Islam transcend from the outward level to the inward level that brings you Iman, that is belief in the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. that the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt is that reality which brings iman in towards a person's heart. And this is why, from the second level, we analyze the concept of Tawalla. You look at these words within the Quran, you find that the word wila, Tawalla, it comes from the word wila. Tawalla is the verbal form. Tawalli is the nominal noun form. You find that it's mentioned in the Quran, wila, and its derivative 236 times. That 236 times, and I'm trying to give a 45-minute lecture when a word is memorized. It's mentioned in the Quran this many times. I remember Zurara bin A'yan, he comes to the sixth Imam. He would go to attend the sixth Imam's classes with his father. He says, "Oh Imam, it's been 40 years. All you teach us is the rulings of Hajj. Every time we come, the rulings of Hajj." The Imam replies by saying, "Oh Zurara, that Hajj which started 2,000 years before Adam, you want me to explain that Hajj in 40 years? In the same way you find these Ahlul Bayt, they were there before Adam. So to explain them in a limited number of time, it's not possible. But you find when you examine this word wila, Raghib al-Isfahani, in his famous Quranic lexicon, dictionary, lughat you can call it, he writes that what does wila mean? And from wila, wilaya comes, walaya comes, all these words, they come from wila. Raghib al-Isfahani says, wila means that you place two things so close to each other that there is no space in between them. That you don't know where one thing ends and another thing begins. And this is the reality of the wilayah of Allah, Rasulullah, Ahlul Bayt. That wilayah, it brings such a unison amongst the mu'mineen that although their bodies are different, it's as if they are so close to each other. There is no separation in between them. That there is no separation in between them. And this is why Rasulullah on the day of Ghadir, what does he say? He says, "Man kuntu mawla fa hadha aliyun mawla." You know, in Arabic, when this letter fa comes up, it means then. But there's a speciality about this fa. There's a difference between fa and thumma. Thumma means it comes afterwards also, but there is a space in between. Fa means there is no space in between. Rasulullah says, "Man kuntu mawla." Then Ali is the mawla, no space in between. This is that reality. This is the reality of wilayah. That whatever Rasulullah would want, Ali ibn Abi Talib would do whatever Rasulullah would want. You find on the day of Ghadir, on that day, Rasulullah, the crowd of 100,000 people upon the day of Ghadir, Rasulullah says to the companions, he says to Salman, "O Salman, tell everyone to take the camels, the saddle of the camels off, and make a pulpit for Ali ibn Abi Talib." Then he tells another companion that whatever I say, you repeat it from on top of that mountain because you have a loud voice. You find that Rasulullah upon that day gives the longest sermon of his life within the heat of the sun. That Rasulullah, 2.5 hours they stand within the heat of the sun, and line after line it talks about wilayah within that sermon. That man kuntu mawla, that if you were having debates with someone and you say man kuntu mawla hadha aliyun mawla, they'll say that the word mawla has 27 meanings. But when you analyze the sermon and you look at what comes before this word mawla, you'll see that Rasulullah says what? He says, "Alastu awladakum min anfusikum." That do I not have more authority over you than you have over yourselves? That it shows the context. Fox News, what do? They take one verse out of the Quran, they create this concept, then they say Islam is the religion of terrorism. The same way if you take one line out of the sermon, put your own context, you can say that mawla means everything, but when you look at it in context, in reality it has one meaning. And you find that Rasulullah, upon that day, he gives this sermon. This sermon, and it reaches its peak. He looks around. On three sides there are men, behind him is women. He says, "Man kuntu mawla, fahadha aliyun mawla, fahadha aliyun mawla, fahadha aliyun mawla." The question came, when I read that he said, Man kuntum mawla fahaza aliyun mawla, fahaza aliyun mawla, fahaza aliyun mawla 3 times. I remember that instance in the Battle of Uhud. In the Battle of Uhud, when Mus'ab ibn Umair passed away, people began to say Rasulullah died. It was at that moment Amir al-Mu'mineen, he raised the hand of Rasulullah and he said, Haza Muhammad, Haza Muhammad, Haza Muhammad. And you find that on the day of Ghadir, Rasulullah, he returns the favor to Amir al-Mu'mineen. But you find that why am I mentioning all this? I'm mentioning all this for what happened afterwards. Everybody is coming to pledge allegiance towards Amir al-Mu'mineen. Even the women, what do? They place a bowl of water amongst the ground. Amir al-Mu'mineen places his hands in the water on one side, the women from the other side. But as they're coming, Ali is doing something strange. The hand of Ali is facing downwards. They say, Ya Rasulullah, we are coming to pledge allegiance to Ali. Ali's hand, it's facing downwards. Rasulullah says, didn't I just announce that Ali is the master of the believers? Why don't you go ask Ali himself? Ali ibn Abi Talib, when he is asked, they say, Ya Ali, why is your hand facing down? Why is it not facing up? Amir al-Mu'mineen replied by saying that I am taking allegiance, I am not asking for allegiance. Because when you ask, your palms, they face the sky. What do we do in dua? When we do in dua, we raise our hands, they face the sky. Our palms, they face the sky. They say, Ya Ali, for every single thing, you have an ayah, you have a verse to prove that. Do you have a verse to prove this as well? Amir al-Mu'mineen replies by saying, didn't Rasulullah just say, my hand is Ali's hand? They said, yes. Doesn't the Quran says, Inna lalladina yubaya'unaka, innama yubaya'una Allah, yadullahi fawqa aydihim. That whoever pledges allegiance to the Prophet has pledged allegiance to Allah, and the hand of Allah is always over their hands. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And the hand of Allah is over their hands. I looked at this crowd. I mentioned this Ghadir for a reason. As I was looking up at the crowd, everybody was looking towards me. I saw smiles upon the faces of everyone. That is the bond of Wilayah. That is that bond which brings all of us together. When you look at a fellow believer, forget your differences. Don't look at the differences. Look at him. Think that he is a lover of Ali ibn Abi Talib. He has Ali within his heart. How can I hate the one who has Ali within his heart? Then how can I hate the one who has Ali within his heart? Because you find this love for Ahlul Bayt, for Ali ibn Abi Talib, is something which is multi-dimensional. The Prophet, in return for his prophethood, he wouldn't ask for something which is one-dimensional. It's something with multiple dimensions. Each prophet came, they didn't ask for anything. The Rasul, you find Adam, he didn't ask for anything. Nuh didn't ask for anything. Ibrahim, he didn't ask for anything. And Rasulullah, he never asked for anything as well. Because isn't it Rasulullah who said that if they place the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left hand to stop me from propagating my message, I wouldn't do it? That's why when you analyze the Quran, you do a tafsir of the Quran by the verses of the Quran. When you look at the Quran, there are 3 verses which are similar that say that I do not ask for any ajr. The first of those verses is what? It is chapter 34, verse 47. It says, قُلْ مَا سَأَلْتُكُمْ مِنْ أَجْرٍ فَهُوَ لَكُمْ. He says what? He says, I do not ask for anything except for something which is for you. And then he says what? He says, in ajriya illa ala Allahi, that my reward is only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then you find what? In ayah chapter 43, ayah 23, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the reply by placing the word qul. He says, "O Prophet, say." The Prophet's not saying himself. Allah is telling the Prophet to say, "قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى." That these are not the words of the Prophet to give recompensation. The word "قُلْ" proves that it is from Allah that recompensation is coming. This is that second verse. But there is a third verse. Chapter 25, verse 57. What does it say? It says, قُلْ مَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ مِنْ أَجْرٍ إِلَّا مَنْ شَاءَ أَنْ يَتَّخِذَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِ سَبِيلًا. It says that I ask for nothing except for that you take the sabil, the path of your Lord. Now, on one side, Rasulullah is saying, I ask for nothing except love for my family. Then he's saying, I ask for nothing except for something that's for you. Then he's saying, I ask for nothing except you take the path of your Lord. Is this a contradiction? Then you know in mantiq, in logic, there's two possibilities. Either this contradicts itself or it's saying the same thing. For example, if I say you are a doctor, then I say you are a male, then I say you are a father. In reality, are these things different? You find that they are the same. And if I say you are a bad father, I say you are a bad doctor, if I say you are a bad person, in reality, in essence, it is an attack upon you. You find that when you look within the Quran, this sabil, this path, the love of Ali Muhammad, and that thing which is for you is in reality the same thing. That the love of Ali Muhammad is that path to Allah. The love of Ali Muhammad is something which benefits you. And these are the dimensions of love. That love, it wasn't something that was just emotional. Rather, it had a benefit for the mu'mineen. That from Adam until Rasulullah, it was prophethood which would guide the people. But from Rasulullah until the day of judgment, it is the love of Ahlul Bayt which would bring guidance towards the people. It is the... It is the love of Ahlul Bayt that would guard people. And what does the Quran say about those who oppose the sabil, the path of Allah? It says what? It says in chapter 25, verse 27, وَيَوْمَ يَعَدُّ الظَّالِمُ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ. And then what will he say? يَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي اتَّخَذْتُ مَعَ الرَّسُولِ سَبِيلًا. That on the day of judgment there will be an oppressor biting his hands, and he will say, "Oh Allah, I wish I had taken that sabil, that path alongside the Prophet," highlighting the Prophet is something else and that path is something else, to provide more evidence. But you find that this is that love. It is multidimensional. It is mentioned within the Quran. And that's why I conclude on what? Is that when you look at humanity, you can divide humanity into three spheres. Take a white sheet of paper. In the middle of the paper, put a dot. Call that dot Tawheed. Draw 3 circles around it. One circle will be more inclusive. Then there will be more exclusive. Then there will be one which is more inclusive. Then there will be one which is more inclusive than that. The first circle is the circle of wilayah. After that, you find the next circle is the circle of Islam, the circle of the Muslims. And then you find the third circle is the circle of humanity. You find the traditions of Ahlul Bayt say we have a responsibility to each of them. The first circle of humanity, that you do insaf with them, you are just towards them. The second circle of the Muslims, you do infaq, you are charitable to them. But the third circle, you do isar, self-sacrifice for that third circle, which is the one of wilayah. And I'll conclude upon the responsibilities towards each of these circles in order that we can build a progressive community for the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam here at IEC Husaini. When it comes to the first circle,
you find that the first circle is the circle of humanity. That when it comes to anybody who is a human being, whether he is a theist, atheist, Muslim, Christian, Jew, Hindu, whatever he is, you have the responsibility of justice towards that person regardless of what he belongs to. You know, when the ethicists, they analyze this concept of justice, they say there are certain good deeds that although intrinsically they are good, they are not for all times. For example, kindness. Should you always be kind? Yes, you should be kind. But if your child is misbehaving and you're kind towards him, it'll only encourage him negatively. But you find justice. Justice is that attribute, that you have justice at all times. And this is why you find that Ali ibn Abi Talib, whether it was a Muslim or a non-Muslim, he showed justice which was unbelievable. You find that Amir al-Mu'mineen, they see him shivering. They say, Ya Ali, you are shivering. Your cloak, your abba is so thin. You know what Ali ibn Abi Talib says? He says, I'm afraid that there will be somebody in Yemen from amongst my kingdom who is cold. That's why I don't buy something which is warmer. You find after that what? Another incident. Ali ibn Abi Talib, he's speaking on the minbar. As he's speaking on the minbar, he's doing this with his shirt. He's drying his shirt. The narrator says that I was walking by with my father. I said that, why is Ali ibn Abi Talib doing that? Is it hot? Is something bothering him? You know what he replies by saying? He says that Ali ibn Abi Talib, he just washed that shirt and that is the only shirt he owns. When he came upon the minbar, he was drying it as he sat upon that minbar. That this is that reality, that this is what you owe towards people, that we are not those individuals that dehumanize anyone because their beliefs are different from us. That is for other individuals. And you know what justice is? Justice means to place something in its right place. So zulm is the opposite, to take something out of its right place. You know, I remember when Amir al-Mu'mineen, he becomes the Khalifa. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he goes towards the masjid. He's about to step upon the minbar. You know, the third, he would sit on the bottom step. The second would sit one step higher. Then the first would sit one step higher. Then that Rasulullah would sit on the topmost step. Now, Ali ibn Abi Talib, he's about to get on the minbar. Everybody's going to think that Ali, he's going to take the lowest spot. You know what Amir al-Mu'mineen does? He gets upon that minbar. He places his feet where the third would sit. He goes one step higher. He places his feet where the second would sit. Then he goes one step higher. He places his feet where the first would sit, and he sits where Rasulullah would sit. And he says, oh Allah, today truth and justice has been brought to this position. All of the companions upon that day, they say what? They say, now we are reminded of the time period of Rasulullah. That this... They say now we are reminded of the time period of Rasulullah, that this is our first responsibility, that to be a progressive community amongst the followers of Ahlul Bayt, we need to set an example, whether it is Shia, non-Shia, Muslim, non-Muslim, because we are all bonded by the fabric of humanity. And our first responsibility to them is what? Justice. But at the second level, what is justice? Justice is that we have the words of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, you spread those words towards them. Because you know how revolutions happen? Revolutions, they don't happen from legislation. They don't happen from the topmost level. Legislation doesn't do those changes. Revolutions happen at the grassroots levels. Revolutions, they happen from people at the individual level. You go out, you do something in the name of charity. You say that my name is Hussein, I am a follower of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and I'm doing this work. This is how revolutions happen. This is how you change the mindset of individuals. You tell them who Ahlul Bayt are. You give them the words of Ahlul Bayt. The Ahlul Bayt say that we'll do the rest. You give them the words, they say they'll do the rest. What does the 8th Imam say? The 8th Imam says if the people knew the beauty of our narrations, they would undoubtedly follow us. That you know how powerful these words of Ahlul Bayt are? That Sheikh Abbas al-Qummi, somebody is sick. They come up to him. They say, oh Sheikh, can you write a dua for us? You know what Sheikh Abbas al-Qummi does? He says, bring me a glass of water. They bring a glass of water. He places his fingers within that glass. The child drinks that glass. He's cured immediately. They say, oh Shaykh, what dua did you recite over this glass? Shaykh Abbas al-Qummi says, I didn't recite any dua, but you know what? With these fingers, I've written thousands of hadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Do you think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wouldn't honor these fingers? That this is that power of the words of Ahlul Bayt. You find another scholar, he has a headache. What does he do? He takes Usul al-Kafi out from his library. He places it upon his head. He says, oh Allah, through the rights of the words of Ahlul Bayt, cure me. He says, I never had a headache after that before. You know, this is who that Ahlul Bayt is. This is that time period to spread their words. You know, even George Jordak would write, there's one thing which I didn't understand. I didn't understand why God would send Ali before his time. Because those are those individuals that when Amir al-Mu'mineen would say Saluni, they would say how much hair is within my beard. But in reality, Ali ibn Abi Talib was explaining metaphysical and scientific concepts which are 1400 years later. You know what Amir al-Mu'mineen says? He says that if I was given a chance to rule, I would make fire come out of water. That I would make fire come out of water. Of course, Ali can do this literally as well. But you find today that science, what does it have? We are just now producing hydroelectric energy. That Amir al-Mu'mineen was 1400 years ahead of his time. So this is that responsibility. This is how you bring our communities together. You build it upon justice to everyone and a common goal of spreading the message of Ahlul Bayt to Ali, everyone. But the second level, then you come to the second circle, which is the circle of Islam. That it's stated that have infaq, be generous towards them, engage in academic dialogue and discussion, find common grounds as well as discuss the differences. Because you know that on the day of Ashura, not all of them were the Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib at first. That have you heard of the name Zuhair ibn al-Qayn? Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, he was Uthmani. Then you know what Uthmani was in historical definition? Uthmani means that he believes that Amir al-Mu'mineen was responsible for the killing of the third caliph. This was Zuhair ibn al-Qayn. But you find that Zuhair ibn al-Qayn through dialogue comes to the path of Abu Abdullah. It is that same Zuhair ibn al-Qayn who says that if I was killed 1,000 times and my ashes were thrown, each time I would be sacrificed for you, O Hussein. It is that Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, when Hussein was alone on the plains of Karbala, he says, Ya Habib ibn Mazahir, Ya Muslim ibn Awsaja, Ya Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, Ya قال الصفا ويا فرسان الهجا. He says, oh Habib, oh Muslim, oh Zuhair, oh brave fighters, oh valiant warriors, where are you? That this is that generosity, this is infaq, that you had that discussion. But then there is this third group which is bonded by the wilaya of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. A brotherhood, a bond which is unbreakable. You know our sixth Imam, somebody asked the sixth Imam that what is the right of your brother? The Imam says, don't make me answer this. Why? Because if the Imam answers it, you're responsible for practicing upon it. He says, don't make me answer this. The man, he insists. The Imam says that you give a portion of your wealth to your brother. But then he thinks to himself that what is a portion? The Imam, he recites the ayat which says that there are believers who sacrifice to others not caring whether it harms themselves. That this is the wilaya of Ahlul Bayt. That you are willing to sacrifice for your brother in wilaya. The narrations mention that when the 12th Imam comes, the society will be of such a state that another person will be able to take from somebody else's possessions without that other person becoming upset. That this is that wilaya. That wilaya is something which connects the hearts. That look at Habib, you look at Maytham, they're speaking towards each other. Habib says to Maytham, oh Maytham, it's as if I see a balding man who sells dates and he is going to be killed for his master Ali ibn ibn Abi Talib. He says, oh Maytham, are you ready for that day? Maytham says, I'm ready for that day. Then he speaks to Habib. He says, oh Habib, it's as if I'm looking at a man who's going to be killed for the grandson of Rasulullah. Are you going to stay with the grandson on that day, or are you going to turn away? Everybody thinks that Habib and Maytham, they're going crazy. They go to Roshad al-Hajari. They say, oh Roshad, Maytham and Habib are crazy, that they're speaking about how they are going to die. Then you find that Roshad, he replies by saying what Habib didn't mention is that for 200 dinar, his head will be paraded around Kufa. That this is wilaya, this is that connection. That Habib, he looks at Maytham, Maytham looks at Habib, Habib looks at Roshad. There's something which is connecting them. There is some bond which is bringing them so close together that you cannot separate them. That is the wilaya of Ali ibn Abi Talib. That is that wilaya which brings everybody within this hall together. It is that wilaya which drags you over here. It is when you look at the world through the lens of wilaya that the world, it begins to have this crystal clear picture of a brighter future. And you find there are certain people that they had that wilaya to such an extent that the imams themselves would invite those people, and that was Habib ibn Mazahir. That Bibi Zainab, she would watch that more troops, they would come. Shimar's army, Umar bin Saad's army, it kept getting larger and larger. She would ask her brother, are any of these people here to support us? The Imam would say, no, they're not here to support us. But then he would say what? He would say that my friend Habib will come and support us. You find the Imam, he sends a messenger towards Habib. When he knocks at the door, what does Habib hear? He hears the messenger say, Ana Baridul Hussein, that I am the messenger of Hussein. He takes that letter which the Imam sends him. Habib, he kisses that letter. He places it upon his eyes. Imagine you have a letter from your Imam. What must have gone through the heart of Habib? Maybe Habib was thinking that there was news of happiness within this letter. But when he opens the letter, what does he see? He says the Imam saying, oh Habib, we are in a time of difficulty. Habib, he thinks towards his wife. He says to his wife that the son, what is this? His wife says, oh Habib, is this a letter from the son of Fatima? He says, this is a letter from the son of Fatima. He's in difficulty and he needs my help. You know what the wife says? She says, oh Habib, are you going to go help him? Habib, he replies by saying, I am thinking about it. It is at that moment that his wife said, oh Habib, you are going to stay in the house while the son of Fatima is in difficulty, Habib. That while the son of Fatima is in difficulty, Habibi says, I was just taking your task. Habibi goes with his servant. He goes towards Karbala. When the companions, they see that Habib is coming, they say, Allahu Akbar. The voice of that Allahu Akbar, it goes towards the tent of Bibi Zainab. She says, oh Mother Fizza, that what has happened? What is this noise for? Bibi Fizza, she goes out. She inquires when she comes back. She says, oh Zainab, that Habib has come. Bibi Zainab, she says that no one has come for us. Send my salams to Habib. You know what, Habib? He hears the salams of the daughter of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Habib, he falls upon the ground. He throws his turban on the ground. He says, the daughter of Ali is sending her salams to a ghulam like The daughter of Ali is sending her salams to a ghulam like Habib. I say, oh Zainab, right now you are sending your salams to Habib who is from Kufa. But oh Zainab, you'll go through that bazaar of Kufa. Not one salam will come your way, but instead there will be arrows. There will be rocks which are thrown at you, oh Zainab. You find that this Habib, he is fighting. The Imam, the time for prayers, it comes. The Imam, he says, oh Habib, stand in front. It's one enemy, he says to the Imam, that do you think your prayer will be accepted? Habib, he says to him, that you are telling the son of Fatima that his prayer won't be accepted. You find Habib, he is fighting after that. Habib, he falls upon the ground. He says, oh my master, did I fulfill my promise? Imam al-Hussein says, oh Habib, you fulfilled that promise. You know, when the heads, they return towards Kufa, the wife of Habib, she sees the head of Habib. She thinks to herself, she says to the servant, oh my servant, I know they must have buried the son of Fatima. I know they must have buried Ali Akbar, but Habib is from the people of Kufa. They probably did not bury Habib. Take this kafan, take this shroud, and cover the body of Habib. The servant, he goes towards Karbala. In his hand is one kafan. He sees 72 bodies laying across the plains of Karbala. He comes back towards Kufa. The wife of Habib says to that servant, that why did you return with this kafan? He says, oh Bibi, you gave me one kafan. The bodies were 70. Oh Bibi, you gave me one kafan. The bodies that laid in the plains of Karbala. على لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Raise your hands, Ya Allah. We ask through the right of our tears for Aba Abdullah for the forgiveness of our sins. Ya Allah, we pray for the hastening of the master of our time, Imam Sahib al-Zaman. Ya Allah, we pray for the rebuilding of Jannatul Baqi. And Ya Allah, we pray that our communities can progress in a forward direction around the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم.
बर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलवात